I'm Joe Zawadzki, the CEO of MediaMath, and I'm honored to be joined here by Will Ferguson, VP Online, 1-800-Flowers. Hi, Will.
Hello. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So definitely want to make this as interactive as people are ready to make it on the last day of the show. So if folks want to stop, ask questions, ask for clarification, please do so. Otherwise, we will give you the magic over the course of 20 slides and one short video. Okay. So direct mail was the beginning. So in the beginning was the mailbox, and it was a magical channel that managed to reach, call it 120 million U.S. households, and you could do this wonderful thing of decide which households you wanted to reach, and you could put an ad in front of them 5 or 6 times a week. It was pretty awesome. Once a day, 5 or 6 times a week, and it would cost something like 25 cents to $1, depending on what you were mailing. It's pretty magic. And basically, we have spent 20 years turning the rest of marketing into direct mail. And it's a really powerful thing, actually, if you think about it. So other channels, broadcast, call it TV, call it print, call it billboards, lacked a lot of things, right? It lacked addressability, so you couldn't decide who you're going to show it to, okay? It lacked any kind of feedback loop of any sort, right? Nobody was picking up the phone and calling. Nobody was sending back a pre-sorted response. Nobody was entering a promo code. Very hard to attribute cause and effect. What's happened now with the advent of programmatic, so this idea that every digital screen is connected underneath to a technology platform, and then the raw ingredients of media and data are available to marketers to assemble on the fly, is basically this programmatic concept. Whether it's people talk about RTB or they talk about DSPs or DMPs, put all of those sort of new technologies under this broader umbrella of programmatic, and ultimately all of those things, what they're doing is connecting brands to consumers in real time and at scale. So from a scale perspective, we're talking today about 65 billion impressions a day. And so that is, rather than 120 million households 6 times a week, it's 65 billion impressions a day, where you're able to reach folks whether they're on their smartphone or they're on their desktop browsing, a Yahoo or a major portal, whether they're on social media on Facebook, ultimately whether they're on the smart TV that we'll be donating at the end of this. So all of those digital screens now sort of integrated in order to provide the addressability that direct mail once had. Some other cool parts to it. The thing that you get to deliver, right, is a dynamic ad in the moment, right? And you get immediate real-time feedback to come to see what happened, right? Not just in that moment, but ultimately, what are people doing when they're going to your website? What are people doing when they enter into your store? So that is really what we've done, is turn everything into direct mail. Very exciting for folks in this conference room. Next. So I tend to talk a lot about how big data is wildly uninteresting, right? So just the collection of it, the aggregation of it, for a lot of people, that equates to a dashboard. The only interesting part is how you activate big data into the world. And the thing that we like to talk about is the decision, right? So if you have this ready, available 65 billion impressions a day plus, really your job as a marketer is to make some decision about what to serve and to whom to serve, and most interestingly, relative to direct mail, how much to pay for it, right? So there isn't a fixed price, there isn't one bulk rate, but with the magic of a lot of this inventory being through an auction system, you can actually decide, hey, I only want to mail this user if I can get them for 2 cents CPM or less, right? And you'll often lose that because there will be competition, but often it will be the case that you'll discover folks that you can, in fact, get for very low prices, right? Well below what you would have had to pay in order to put a piece of mail in front of their threshold, in the mail world. And the nice part is, they've seen it, right? There's no threshold problem in digital. The other nice part is if you can find audiences that you really, really like, you can clear the market for them, right? In our system, we sometimes see bids that come out at $1,000 CPM, right? So $1 in value just to reach that user. If you have that type of willingness to pay in the digital arena today, you can basically own that user's experience, right? And so a lot of B2B applications where you've got a very, very high price point, those folks can have a very high degree of assurance they're going to reach the folks they want to reach with the frequency they want to reach them. Just three back now? Yeah. And what ultimately that's doing is letting us sort of return to the original premise that marketing is all about communicating with consumers, right? Having this engagement with prospects as they become customers as they become high lifetime value customers and ultimately advocates, and you're able to sort of integrate those experiences, right? So I would say even up to a decade ago, you really have to focus on the channel, right? The requirements of display versus search versus social were also nuanced, that you needed specialized teams to deal with all those things. And really you've focused on media channel in, right? You figured, how did those channels bring people to my website? How did my website convert people to become customers? What's nice about programmatic ultimately, and we'll actually show you guys some of a short little video that give you a sense on like what this platform that we built actually does. But what it really allows for is you make the media channel sort of disappear in some sense and able to really focus on the customer communication. Next. So I talked a little bit about the platform. Really what it does is it lets marketers, like Will, take control, right? To stitch together this pretty complicated landscape. I don't know who here has seen the Lumascape or that eye chart full of logos. That thing terrifies a lot of folks because it feels like there's a massive amount of complexity, right? Like you have to spend your day managing, random companies with funny names. And the reality is if you can pull all that stuff together into one place, if you can make it a dashboard or you can make it like a Bloomberg terminal, that really allows folks to log into one place and get access to all of that, the complexity sort of recedes, and the innovation that it delivers, comes forward, right? If you can stitch together your media and your data, and you can allow sort of algorithms to help make sense of it all, that's sort of the dream state, right? It's the terminal that people use in order to do their jobs, and some do it better than others, and Will does it really amazingly, and we will talk about that. That's a picture of it. It's very pretty. And now a short video.
It gives us one view into the internet, and we can easily get in, test, optimize, and then step on the gas pedal. What I like about MediaMath is it gives us the ability to understand our data in real time and make real-time decisions.
Okay. Thought you were going to see more of the platform. Let me visualize it with Word. No, I was just kidding. So in any case, it's a software platform licensed to branded agencies. Basically allows this stuff to happen. So you guys saw a screenshot of it a couple slides ago. But again, I'm going to turn it over very quickly to Will here to talk about how it actually works in real life.
Well, great. Thanks, Joe. So my name's Will Ferguson. I'm the Vice President of Online Marketing at 1-800-Flowers. And I'm just going to give you a little overview today about our viewpoint, kind of our strategy and how we go to market in the display channel specifically. And then we'll get into the details on how MediaMath has kind of helped us achieve some of our goals. So that was my president up there on the screen with the terrible New York accent. But what he was saying up there really resonated with us, right? And let me give you a little history. So when I started at Flowers about 3 years ago, the company really wasn't doing much in the way of display. And that isn't typical at 1-800-Flowers. Typically, 1-800-Flowers, if you think back to the company over the last 30, 35 years, we're on the forefront of technology, right? So back in the 80s with the 1-800 number, that was big technology back in the day, right? In the 90s, we had a fully functional website. We've had a mobile site for 7 years now, right? And so really the company's been built up over the years on on figuring out the ad tech stack, figuring out technology, making it work for us and for the consumer, iterating, and then moving forward on to the next thing, right? And that's how we've grown over the years. And one place where we're a little behind the eight ball was in display. And the reason why is because first and foremost, we couldn't quantify it. So when I first came to Flowers, they're really still focused on just click-to-conversion metrics. And that's really difficult to quantify display advertising from a click conversion because there's typically like 1% click-through rate, right? So, and so I work for, my boss came up through the ranks as in finance, right? And so we had to we're very, very direct response oriented. We had to prove everything out through an ROI. And I came in there and I said, hey, I think we should be doing a lot of retargeting. I think we should do more audience modeling. All they were really doing at the time was portal buys on the key flower holidays, right? We do Yahoo homepage, AOL homepage, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, and kind of walk away from the channel. I said, wow, this doesn't make sense. Let's try some of these other things. They said, okay, prove it out, right? Prove it out in the data. We're super analytically focused there at Flowers. And so I did some of that. We started looking at post-view sales and quantifying when someone saw a display ad, didn't click on the ad, but ultimately converted. We'd run some A/B tests to be able to quantify that. And we got our arms around it. We said, okay, great. So let's start doing some more stuff, right? And so we started dipping our toes into doing more retargeting, more audience modeling. We got our own ad server. But what we found is as we were working with a bunch of different ad networks and a bunch of different partners, right? And so we have this ad network doing some retargeting of this portion of our website and another one doing some retargeting on a different part of our website. We had another partner doing some audience modeling. But what we found in our analytics was there was a ton of overlap. And we just saw the channel as very sloppy. And as an ROI-focused marketer, it just didn't sit well with me, and it certainly didn't sit well with my boss. And we said, wow, there's got to be a better way around this, right? And that's where we kind of got introduced to MediaMath and was like, wow, well, this is terrific. We could have essentially one port into the internet, right? And so you have all these websites out there on the internet, and they're all part of multiple ad networks. And so that's why you have that overlap in inventory, and you're chasing cookies around the internet, and you're hitting them via a bunch of different mechanisms, right? But with MediaMath, we essentially had one port, and so everything was right there. And so it virtually almost eliminated our overlap problem. So that was a big benefit for us, right? And then, yeah, we can go to the next slide. And then the second real benefit for us is every day we kind of have like an executive huddle, right? So we have all the channel leads, all the marketing channel leads in a room with the president, the head of finance and whatnot. We sit there and we kind of go through the numbers. How did email perform? How much did it cost us, and how much did it bring in? And we tick through all the different channels, and we kind of talk about what's working, what's not working, and how can we leverage learnings, right? How can we leverage learnings from one channel to another? And what we always wanted to do is, because all of our other marketing channels were pretty dialed, right? What we always wanted to do is, hey, look, we have this audience segment that's performing really well. We've noticed it to perform very well. Can we kind of create a segment like that and chase a segment like that out in display, right? Set up a little test wheel and go do that. And we could never get there in the ad network model because, first of all, to run a test, it would be like 50 grand or whatever, something like that. And it was just ridiculous. And then you just didn't have the granular data to be able to really analyze if it was working or not, right? And so that was the second real benefit of MediaMath. We would kind of come out of these meetings and we'd say, okay, look, we have this type of audience that we want to chase. And I want to chase it with like a $200 test. And then showcase it to me, if it's learning the next day. So the flower vertical is kind of like, it's this crazy little place where it's hyper competitive and the shopping window is super tight, right? So think about it. You know, it's like you and you're like, oh my God, it's my wife's birthday tomorrow, and you yank out your mobile phone and you do a few searches, and then boom, you purchase, right? And so I have to get an ad out in front of that person with the right product, the right message, and the right offer in almost real time. And so that's difficult to do. And because it's so competitive, we're constantly testing, right? And you know, I think it's a valuable lesson in digital marketing in general, right? There's no like silver bullet out there that's going to fix all of your marketing problems. We see it, especially in our vertical, as iteration on iteration on iteration of tests. So we run little tests, we get the learnings, we analyze the data, and then we iterate and we move forward. And through MediaMath and through our DSP, we were able to kind of set up these little tests, you know, work with their account management team to say, hey, here's what we're trying to achieve. We want to run this little test. Let's prove it out. And then let's look at the data, and then let's move forward. And so that's been a big win for us. It seems like something small, but over the years as we've worked with them, it's grown our display channel significantly. So this is good, yeah, right here. So I'd say we had a few goals in display, right? So we came to MediaMath and we said, hey, listen, first and foremost, I don't like this whole black box thing. So you guys will see this a little bit in display. So who runs display advertising at their company? Let me just show of hands. Okay. So if I start talking about things with strange acronyms and you don't know what I'm talking about, just raise your hand and I'll explain. But so you know, a lot of times, and through the ad networks and the old way of doing display, you would have this kind of, we called it a black box, right? They'd say, we'll do everything for you. You know, we'll do retargeting, we'll do prospecting, we'll roll it all up into one, and just tell me what's my metrics? What do I have to hit? What type of return do I have to hit? What do you quantify from a post-view sale, and what do I have to hit? And I'll deliver that. And we did a little of that, and I was like, well, yeah, but what are you doing? You know, and like, what exactly is going on there? Because we feel, at Flowers, we want to dig into the data, and we think in digital marketing that the devil is in the details. And if we can really look at the data granularly, I can bring my understanding of the company forward, and then we can make some improvements here, right? And so we said, hey, listen, holistically, we want to move away from this black box. I want it completely open box. I want to understand everything that's going on, right? And I want to have my hands on the data in real time. Because again, at Flowers, we're not only looking at the data like on a daily basis. When it's Valentine's Day and I got 10x the money in market, we're looking at that data hourly, right? So it's super important for us to have our arms around the data. So no more black box. Number two, we said, hey, look, we've been in business for 35 years. I have this huge CRM system with all these customers there. Help me leverage that, right? Help me to first and foremost speak to my current customers a little better through display, and number two, look at my customers. Let's run some data analysis on customers and help me in display find our best customers out there on the internet and showcase some display ads. So those were kind of our big goals there. You can go to the next slide. So let me just run through a few examples of how they help us achieve those goals. So the first way was through remarketing. Excuse me. And you know, before, what we were doing is, does everyone understand what remarketing is, right? Pretty basic concept. Someone comes to your website, they drop off your website, you chase them around the internet, hitting them with display ads in the hope that they come back to your website and convert, right? But again, in digging into the details, we said, you know, that's not enough for us. Our website is complex, maybe a little too complex, but our website is complex, and there's thousands of different products that we have on our website, right? And so I don't want to just do retargeting. I want to get really strategic in retargeting. So, for instance, what we do now is someone comes to our website and they come to the home page, and then they drop down into, let's say, birthday flowers, and then they drop down into like one of our best sellers called Fields of Europe, right? And if they dropped into that product page, they're pretty far down the funnel, right? And let's say they drop off that product page and leave our site. So now what we're able to do is, instead of just hitting them with a random display ad that might show roses, right? Now, I'm going to hit them with the last product that they looked at on our website, right? So I'm going to show them Fields of Europe, right? Here's the product you saw. We do that, right? We also can carousel through, here's Fields of Europe, the last product you saw, and here's 5 or 6 other products of people who like Fields of Europe. You might like these as well, right? So we do a little bit of that. Additionally, that's the first time I see them. The second time I see them on another website, I'll hit them with a new offer. Hey, here, that was 5% off Fields of Europe. Here's 10% off, right? And maybe a new message, right? And so what we're really trying to achieve there is just really to make our marketing more relevant to the consumer. I'm trying to leverage everything I know about the consumer to give them, the right message, the right offer with the right product at the right time. Make it easy for them to buy. And so that was a big win for us from a remarketing perspective, and we've seen huge gains in that type of strategy. So if you just think about your website, that's just one example on the product page, but we do similar things on, I've 8 other brands as well. So we're like kind of like a mini gifting portal. Think of us like a mini Amazon gifting portal, right? So it's flowers, it's chocolates, it's cookies, it's popcorn, it's wine, it's a ton of different brands, right? And now we have really strategic remarketing initiatives that incorporate all of those brands. So it's been a huge win for us. So if there's one big takeaway here, think about dynamic creative remarketing. It's been a big win. And then you can go to the next slide. And then number 2, we said, okay, listen, again, we have all of this first-party data, right? I got a CRM system that's been built up over 35 years. I have my web analytics. I understand who's coming into my site, who's dropping off, and whatnot. Help me to leverage that. And how can we do that? And so it's a different than a lot of businesses, but people come to 1-800-Flowers because they have an occasion, right? They come to us for all those occasions that affect all of us, right? Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and Christmas and Thanksgiving. But then they also have those personal occasions, right? It's your wife's birthday, it's your anniversary, those types of things. And we understand that in our CRM system, right? And so obviously, like a lot of you guys do, right? And that's reflected in your email strategy, right? So if you know someone came in and bought a birthday flowers last year, maybe a week before, you'll hit them with some emails saying, hey, you bought this last year. Remember, it's your wife's birthday. Here's a great offer on it, right? And that's all well and good, but we want display and email to work collaboratively to drive that conversion. So instead of just doing that in email, I said, well, let's also have a similar message out there in display. And let's try to hit that person with a message and an offer and that product that they bought last year out there in display as well. And then let's look at the incremental lift of having both of those work collaboratively to drive that conversion, right? And so that's been a big win for us. Again, it's just, and the reason why it's won is because probably like all of your email inboxes, they're just inundated with email. A lot of people can't get to all their emails, right? Maybe they look at the subject line of a bunch of emails and that's about it, right? And so for those people, you probably didn't see them on email. Well, maybe they saw it in display, right? Helpful there. And those people that actually open the email, because that reminder email actually performs really well for us, right? Because again, it's relevancy, it's speaking, it's marketing to one. it really reinforces that message out there in display. And so that was another big win for us. And then the third one, let me flip to the next slide. The third big win for us was in the attribution space. All right, and so again, like I said, like when I got the flowers, not doing all that much in the way of attribution, and then eventually by kind of old school direct marketing tactics, we figured out incremental lift and that type of thing. But then we got deeper and deeper into attribution, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to see that true path to conversion, right? So I run a bunch of the acquisition channels at Flowers. So, you got display and search and SEO and social and affiliates and the list goes on, right? We have substantial budgets in all of these channels. And again, we're looking at this, it's a short, tight buying window. So we're looking at this very granularly on a daily basis. And what we're trying to achieve there is, how do I most efficiently spend my next marketing dollar, right? And so we got pretty heavy into the attribution space, and we were saying, okay, we're looking at everything on a last click basis. And I said, no, let's look at everything on a last touch. So incorporate views, incorporate impressions into that. It's like, okay, great. Let's flip it on its head then. Then we said, let's look at everything on a first touch basis. Because I'm running acquisition, I want to know what marketing channel touches that person first, right? That's valuable to me. And so that was helpful, and that helped quantify who was out there actually yanking in new consumers, new prospects. Said, okay, great. And then we said, well, those are very human heuristic types of models that we're applying to the data. But let's have the data tell us what the value of this marketing touch point is. And so then we've ended up running a regression on all of our marketing touch points, right? And so that gives us the value, using mathematics, the value of that touch point, right? And I said, well, great, but I want to feed that value back into my programmatic buys. So MediaMath's out there, right? And they're seeing things more binary. They're saying, okay, look, we hit this person with display ad, it drove a conversion, and that's how it's going. But hey, now they said, well, we can ingest your attribution data. I said, really? That's awesome, But they were like, we can ingest that in real time, so it can actually inform their brain, right, the demand-side platform's brain, on how to bid, right? And so it's ingesting data, cross-channel data, in real time. And so that's been a huge win for us, because now MediaMath is actually working collaboratively with all of our other marketing channels via the data to drive conversions. Why don't we go to the next slide? So in summary, I'd say there's three big areas where MediaMath helped us a lot. Our goal at Flowers is to market to one, right? We want to be super relevant. We want to make it easy for the consumer to buy, and through these types of tactics that I've just described, that's what MediaMath's enabled us to do. Make our marketing message, our marketing offer, make display advertising more relevant. So that's number one. Number two was, again, we want this thing to work more efficiently. I don't want all this overlap in ad networks and very sloppy. I don't have these huge brand CPG types of dollars where I just broadcast everything out, right? I need things to be really sophisticated and granular, and I have to prove everything out in an ROI. And so MediaMath has gotten us more efficient, and we've got more efficient by partnering with them to test things out and display. And that's been super helpful for us. Every day I got a small team. It's just 4 guys, and we come in the morning and we log into the system and we kind of figure out what's working, what's not working. I head off to the executive huddle. They say, hey, Will, why don't you test this, test that, figure this out. Look, this audience is kind of popping off for us from web analytics. Go see if you can chase that audience and display. I'll come back to the team. We'll regroup. And then we have, a few calls a week with the MediaMath account team. We say, hey, we want to run this test. How do we do that? Set up the logistics for us. How do we do that technically? And that team's been great. They kind of iron it out. Joe's done a great job of building a team that's focused on testing. It's focused on analytics, and it's not just focused on, hey, you guys should just spend more money, right? We get that a lot. Why don't you just spend more money, and then you'll figure it out. You can just spend your way out of it. It's like, no, we want to actually test into this and figure it out. And so kudos to Joe's team, but it's been very helpful in that regard. And then the third thing that MediaMath's been super helpful with is from a data perspective, right? If we look at our first-party data, right, we have our CRM system, we have our web analytics. How do we leverage that understanding of the type of person that ultimately comes to 1-800-Flowers and purchase? How do I speak to that type of customer better out there in display? And then how do I find more of our best customers in the display channel? Because they're out there, right? And I have the data points. I understand web behaviors of people. I understand what people are, the demographic behavior and all that stuff that you capture in your CRM. Help me to leverage that in our DSP. And so those are the three big things that MediaMath's helped us with, and the proof is really in the pudding, right? If you look back over Mother's Day last year, so Mother's Day in the flower categories is the biggest holiday, right? A lot of people think it's Valentine's Day, but everyone's got a mom. Not everyone has a sweetheart. So this is definitely the World Series of the flower vertical, and year-over-year results were just astounding. 240% increase in revenue, a 15% increase in average order value, and a 31% decrease in CPM. So, when my boss, who again was CFO, when he sees numbers like that, he does like a back handspring into a full split. He's so excited because those are the types of things that get us it's those incremental wins like this that have ultimately gotten us to here, and that's where we've been really able to grow the channel now. So some big tests on the horizons, but it's been a great relationship thus far. That's it. Yeah, we are. So we look at attribution data mostly in the form of regression. So of the regression, split that revenue back. But we actually have, 6 different attribution models that we look at. The regression one is the one we rely on the most, but we also look at, a first touch model and a last touch model as well. But yeah, we definitively split that conversion revenue back up between all of those marketing touch points. Yeah. Do we use
customer service?
Yeah.
I'll give the general answer, I guess, which is you certainly can. So, the way that a lot of people start with attribution is you start with whatever is sort of readily available, because often the internal requirements to sort of make the attribution model more and more complex take a little while to get the requisite buy-in, whether it's from IT or from other parts of the organization. So people generally want to start with something that is relatively easy to capture and actionable, right? So you may want to start with, as Will talked about, going from last touch to partially attributed just within digital, for example, right? Because that's usually pretty easy to get access to. And then once you've shown that in the data, if you use a more sophisticated model than last touch, you actually get better, like real life results. Actually, you sell more stuff. That generally creates the internal impetus for people to say, oh, let's do more of that. That seems to really work. And then you start saying, okay, let's pull in, in-store data, for example, right? So let's take loyalty card, information, again, anonymize it, make that available for to sort of do lookalikes on who the best customers are in store. So call it omni-channel or sort of multi-channel applications, And then you can start saying, okay, well, let's also add a customer service touch point into the channel as well. What happens to customers that pick up the phone to call, to either upsell, cross-sell, or potentially to try to cancel, right? How do we use that for a partial attribution model as well? So basically you start simple, and then over time, exactly to this point here, over the course of a year or two, you end up with something that is really complex. If you started with the complex solution, you wouldn't get going. So I think you always think of it as like, here's this journey that you want to ultimately sort of keep de-averaging your customers, keep de-averaging the experience to get more complex, closer and closer to truth, but with ROI justifications at each step along the way. Does that make sense? Really long way to get to yes.
Specifically, pardon?
I think the question was if you have a small list and you're targeting sort of a one-to-one small email list, and maybe you talk about like lookalike.
Yeah. So what with your match rate. So it's all anonymous, right? And so we have these huge email files, and what you can do is you can take your email file and you can match it up to see if these people have a cookie that you could target and display. But it's all anonymously pulled into your DSP, so you don't know specifically who your target. You don't know any privacy info or anything like that on them. But when the list is too small, your match rate might not be that great, and then you might not have that much of a campaign. But what you can do is you can also do a lookalike model off of that cookie. So if you think of Facebook custom audiences is a good example of that, where here's this list and here are these attributes on this cookie, lookalike it and go find more of those types of customers. That's right. So you would have one strategy based on those specific people that you're targeting, and then you'd have a secondary strategy on the lookalikes. Yeah, we do it a lot though. It's been beneficial. Yeah. So I don't want to give the idea. Flowers kind of runs year round. So if you think about 1-800-Flowers, we actually make our money in the everyday business. So we're more. We have these huge peaks, right? Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, but we're not like a lot of the other flower companies that kind of jump into the game for Mother's Day and Valentine's Day. It's very much an everyday business is where we make the bulk of our revenue, because we're not only selling flowers as well, we're selling a bunch of other brands, so we're more relevant throughout the entire year. But I'd say from our perspective, from a data perspective, we're always learning, right? And we look at, we look closely at that path to conversion, right? So when I'm running all of these marketing channels and I have a budget, right, allocated, right? And then I'm looking at the data and I'm seeing, who's maybe the first touch point and who ultimately converts that, right? And I'm using attribution data, web analytics. We have a classic big data issue where we have all these inputs of data, and then I allocate my marketing dollars to how I think it's going to be spent most efficiently to drive a higher ROI. And that changes. It's a fluid mix that does change from month to month. Because I'm looking, I'll start top-down approach. I'll start at the channel level, but I'm driving all the way down to the keyword and making changes accordingly based on that data. So yeah, it's a fluid process. It's by no means perfect, but I think that the data and this big data problem and attribution and being able to succinctly understand what's going on via data, this problem is slowly getting not almost solved, but we're able to make better decisions than we were definitively a year ago. And I think in a year from now, it'll even been better. So it's not easy. It is fluid, but I think we're getting a lot better at it.
I hope everybody enjoyed the panel. If you have any questions, please come up after. Feel free to ask Will or ask Joe. I'm sure they'd be happy to share more. I'm going to ask my coworker Biz to come up with the box of business cards, and will pick the winner. And we will,
right.
I did not haul it here with me, so we will be sending it to you. FedEx Center.
Nice.
But, we'll pick our winner. We do have an extra card
Oh,
right up here.
we got the key. We're good. We got it. Yes.
We're good.
We are good.
Here we go. Get ready.
Did you get in the box? Yeah, okay. There we go. Will Ferguson from 1-800-Flowers. No, just kidding. Sonali Sirico, Wonderman.
If she is not here, we're going to pull somebody else.
Go.
No? Okay.
All right, look at that. Whoops, you snooze, you lose. Will Clayton from Wyland Direct.
Woo! Nice.
Wow.